All right, this is Mr. Poggio, and this is your model for your animal observation presentation with Screencastify. I had the opportunity to actually attend and go to the San Diego Wild Animal Park this summer, so I included a video of the hooded vulture in the top right. But after doing some observations, I decided that I wanted to take a look at the hooded vultures, specifically with the comparative question, do they prefer the sun or the shade in the late afternoon? For my independent variable, I use time. So I use time and their location, and the location being in the shade. There were a couple areas in the shade or in the sun. There were some observational challenges. Even though I had a comparative question that I thought was easy to quantify with values, I found there were some hidden spots, some rocks and bushes and shelter, that made it difficult for me to assess the population size of the hooded vultures in the actual facility. There were also other species present, an Egyptian vulture, shell ducks as well. And I thought that might have changed the vulture's behavior. And I wonder what it would have been like if they were just hooded vulture species only in the exhibit. I collected my data in this link here, and I will share with you a very similar data table where I took each minute and I decided and averaged out after I made my observations how many were in the sun versus how many were in the shade. And to my knowledge, there were a total of 9 hooded vultures inside the exhibit. That's why you'll see the number in the sun and the number of the shade always add up to 9. I took a whole 30-minute observation, which you will do as well. I at first anticipated, after just looking at the cameras and being there, that they'd spend more time, approximately 95% time in the sun. And as you could see here with my totals, that observation and that hypothesis after the first day was wrong, and that's okay. In total, the total minutes of the 9 vultures in the sun was 187 minutes, while they spent a total of 83 minutes in the shade. Now, the link to this data table and this graph I made in Excel, but you could see the number in the sun is a little bit higher than the total numbers in the shade, which leads me to my conclusion that the hooded vulture prefers to spend more time in the sun than in the shade in the late afternoon. And according to our data table, the vulture spent 69% of their time in the sun versus a 31% of their time in shade or partial shade. Your conclusion needs to be quantified, so make sure you include percentages or numbers. And again, your comparative question should be focused on a yes or no answer so that it is easy to quantify your data at the very end when you make your conclusion. Thank you. And if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to Mr. Poggio, Mr. Padilla, or Mrs. Momborg. See you guys.